Mystic Chronicle is a 16-bit retro throwback turn-based RPG. This game was developed by Kemco and published by Natsume. This game is also a digital download exclusive for the PSP and PS Vita. Technically, this was also released as Fantasy Chronicle on the iOS platform, but this is a different translation from that, and is trying to be separate from that release. This game, as a download, is only also about 42 megabytes. When you first look at this game's graphics, chances are you're going to have one of two reactions. One of them being, "Oh man, look at these 16-bit sprites! They remind me of games like Breath of Fire and Phantasy Star." The other reaction being, "Ugh, why does this game look so old?" If you just gave the latter reaction, chances are this game isn't for you. But if you gave the game the former reaction, kindly stick around, as this game will probably be one you want to check out. Now, once you get past how nice and retro the visuals look, you'll come to realize that they're mostly average looking, even by 16-bit standards, save for two specific things. One being the character portraits, which are drawn fairly nicely in this game, and do a good job of giving characters a way to emote. The other thing being the enemies during battles. The animations are really good, and enemies generally look fantastic. While the game doesn't look amazing by any means, it's certainly charming. One complaint I do have is that the frame rate seems a tad slow when walking around. It's not that bad though, but it is noticeable. The music in this game, much like the visuals, is a throwback to 16-bit RPGs. However, I have to say that I was mixed on the music in this game. I found that a lot of tracks for dungeons and towns sort of mesh with the background, don't really make an impact. But alternatively, the songs for both battles and cutscenes were quite good. In the end, it got it right where it mattered most, but that doesn't take away from where it faltered. It has a decent soundtrack, but not anything to write home about. The story in this game is simple and charming, much like RPGs of yesteryear. The game follows Lux, our protagonist. He starts off wanting to join the Holos Guild in order to follow in the footsteps of his best friend Albert. After some bad things happen, Lux finds out that he's a Covenanter, which means that he can have a guardian beast at his side during battle, which truly marks the start of Lux's journey. The story in this game isn't going to wow anyone, but it's definitely a nice and charming tale. I was even a bit surprised at how the story showed a surprising bit of depth and emotion towards the end of the game. However, I think the biggest misstep in the story are the characters. The characters aren't bad, but it never really felt like I got a really good chance to really learn about them, see them grow, or really get to know them. This is definitely a shame because I actually liked a few of the characters and I would have liked to learn more about them. Now, I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but this just goes to show how hard the developers tried to make this game look and feel like a 16-bit RPG. And this is further implied with the combat. The combat is a first-person turn-based RPG style. One thing to get out of the way, yes, this game has random encounters. Personally, I thought the encounter rate was about the same as any game during this era anyways, and it didn't really bother me. But it is going to bother others, so I have to bring it up. Anyways, onto the combat itself. It's fairly self-explanatory, except for one thing, the aforementioned Guardian Beasts. Since all the characters that you play as are Covenanters, they can all have Guardian Beasts. Now, unlike the human characters, who you have full control over, the Guardian Beasts attached to the characters all act on their own. You can give them general commands in the tactics menu, but they'll be generally just doing whatever they want. But they've never actually done anything when I played the game that hindered, despite acting on their own and not having any direct control over them. And depending on the situation, they usually actually do what you would want them to do anyways. I have to say, kudos to the programmers for having such a smart AI. The game never felt too hard or too easy, surprisingly. I always felt that the difficulty was fairly balanced. There were some spikes here or there where the game definitely got more difficult, but typically changing your strategy a bit, grinding a little bit, or making use of this game's crafting system would usually help out. Which, of course, leads me to another big part of the game. The crafting in this game is quite deep. You can gather materials all over the world and you can use them to make equipment stronger. Not only can you make them stronger, but you can also change them into another kind of weapon or armor. Maybe make a sword that has a fire element attached to it, or an armor that has more wind resistance, for example. It definitely adds a lot more to the game and makes up for this game's lack of any sort of skill tree or external leveling system. The crafting system is very well done and definitely makes the game more enjoyable. Mystic Chronicles is an enjoyable retro-style RPG. It has a rather specific audience, but I would be hard-pressed to find many people within that audience that would not enjoy this game. It certainly isn't anything special and isn't going to be winning any awards, but it is a charming little game that's fun to play, especially if you're misty-eyed toward your childhood RPGs like I am. This game is $15 on PSN and lasts about 20 to 25 hours. Even more if you try to tackle the post-game content, which will definitely add a decent chunk to the game. If you're itching for an old-school turn-based RPG on the go, look no further than Mystic Chronicle. The little kid in you will probably thank you for it. This has been Shintai, folks. Take it easy.